Today we will have a discussion on the appendicular skeleton of rabbit. The appendicular skeleton consists of the limb bones and the limb girdles. So first we go to the limb girdles. There are two limb girdles, the pectoral girdle and the pelvic girdle. The pectoral girdle is also called as the shoulder girdle and pelvic girdle is also called as the hip girdle. So here in this diagram, this is the pectoral girdle and this is the pelvic girdle. So what are these girdles meant for? It is from the pectoral girdle that the forelimb bones are suspended. It is from the pelvic girdle that the hind limb bones are suspended. So these girdles, they are meant for suspending the bones of the forelimb as well as the hind limb respectively. Limb bones constitute the forelimb bones. So these are the bones of the forelimb and the hind limb bones which you can see here. Now we will just take their number. The pectoral girdle or the shoulder girdle consists of two bones on each side. So altogether they make 4. The pelvic girdle consists of a single bone on either side. So they make up total 2 bones. Now coming to the forelimb bones. Each forelimb consists of 31 bones. That is 1 in the upper arm, 2 in the lower arm or the forearm, then 6 in the wrist, 5 in the palm, then 14 in the digits. So altogether there will be 31 bones on each forelimb, so total 62. Now the hind limbs. The hind limbs consist of 1 bone in the thigh, 2 in the shank region, then 6 in the ankle region, 5 in the sole region, 12 in digits and 1 bone in the knee region. So altogether 27, and in both hind limbs they total to 54. So first we go to the pectoral girdle or the shoulder girdle. Each half of the pectoral girdle consists of 2 bones. They are called as the coracoscapula, which is this one, the one which looks like the blade of a fan. So this is called as the coracoscapula, and there is a rod-like bone which makes up the collar, which is called as the clavicle. So these are the 2 bones which make up each half of the pectoral girdle. The coracoscapula is also called as the shoulder blade, which is a thin, flat bone. This coracoscapula is actually formed by the fusion of a large scapula and a small coracoid. So this coracoid is now reduced to a process which is called as a coracoid process. The scapula is dominant in the coracoscapula bone. This coracoscapula, it apically bears a cavity which is called as the glenoid cavity. So this is very important. It is to this glenoid cavity that the forelimb is coming and attaching. So this can be considered as the articulation cavity of the pectoral girdle, which you can see on the coracoscapula. So this is a view from the ventral side of rabbit. Here in this diagram, this is the coracoscapula. This is the coracoscapula where you can see the coracoid process. And this bone is called as the clavicle. This rod slender-like bone is called as the clavicle. So these two make up 1 half of the pectoral girdle. Similarly, you can see a clavicle here and the coracoscapula here. So altogether the pectoral girdle makes 4 bones. Now we will have a detailed structure on the coracoscapula. At the basal edge of the coracoscapula, there is a thin strip of cartilage, and this cartilage is called as the coracoscapular cartilage. On the dorsal side or on the outer side of the scapula, there is a spine-like region. It is called as the scapular spine. So this is the scapular spine. You cannot see this scapular spine in this diagram because this is a ventral view, but this is the dorsal view where you can see the scapular spine. The spine ends in a process. This process is called as the acromion process, which is characteristic of the scapula. And this acromion process, which later on ends in the metacromion process. So the dorsal side of the scapula with the scapular spine that ends up in an acromion process, which in turn ends in a metacromion process. And you can see the coracoscapula is connected to the clavicle, and this is another view where you can see this is the clavicle which makes up the collar bone of rabbit, and this is the coracoscapula, which makes up the shoulder blade of rabbit. Here also you can see the scapula. So this is how the scapula is attached, and here is the cavity where the forelimb bone comes and fits into, and the name of that cavity is called as the glenoid cavity. Now we will move on to the forelimb bones. The hand of rabbit, it is fixed in a plantigrade position, that is with the palm touching the ground. And now we will go to the various forelimb bones. The upper arm or the brachium, of rabbit is supported by a single bone. The name of this bone is humerus. The forearm or the antebrachium is supported by two bones. They are the radius and the ulna. The wrist is supported by bones which are called as the carpels. The palm is supported by bones which are called as the metacarpals, and the digits are supported by phalanges. So humerus is single, radius and ulna, there are two bones, 9 carpels which support the wrist, 5 metacarpals which support the palm, 14 phalanges which support the 5 digits. Now we will have a detailed discussion on each bone. So we first come to the humerus. This humerus, it is a stout bone with a middle portion called as shaft, and it has got two extremities. So there is a proximal extremity and there is a distal extremity. So this is the proximal or the anterior extremity, and this is the distal extremity. So we first go to the proximal extremity, where you can see 3 protuberances. The first one is called as the head. So this is the head. It is this head that will fit into the glenoid cavity of the pectoral girdle. As I already told you, the pectoral girdle is having an articulation cavity called as the glenoid cavity. So this is the glenoid cavity of the pectoral girdle. It is into this glenoid cavity that the head of the humerus fits into. It forms a joint which is called as the ball and the socket joint. Now, apart from the head, there are 2 more protuberances which are called as the greater tuberosity and the lesser tuberosity. In between the greater tuberosity and the lesser tuberosity, there is a groove which is called as the bicipital groove. So this is the bicipital groove, and this bicipital groove is meant for attaching the tendon of the biceps muscle. The tendon of the biceps muscle attaches here. Coming to the distal end of the humerus. The distal end of the humerus is having a pulley-like region which is called as the trochlea. So these are the structural features of the humerus which supports the upper arm or the brachium in rabbit. Now we will move on to the forearm, which is supported by 2 bones which are called as the radius and the ulna. Here you can see the diagram. The radius and ulna are immovably united throughout their length. So you can see they are united throughout their length, especially when the palm is held downwards, and this position is called as pronation. So there you can see it is united immovably. Now coming to the ulna. So this is the ulna. This ulna, it proximally bears a notch which is called as the sigmoid notch. It is into this sigmoid notch that the trochlea of the humerus comes and fits into, because the radius and ulna comes after the humerus. So the trochlea of the humerus fits into the sigmoid notch of the ulna. Basal to the sigmoid notch, there is a process, a backwardly projecting process arising from the ulna, which is called as the olecranon process. So here also you can see the olecranon process which is projecting from the ulna. So here you can see the trochlea of the humerus fits into the sigmoid notch of the ulna, making the elbow joint which is like a hinge, and this is the olecranon process which is characteristic of the ulna. Now we will move on to the wrist. This is the wrist region which is supported by small bones which are called as the carpels, and there are 9 carpels. These 9 carpels are arranged in 3 rows. So this is the first row or the proximal row, this is the mesial row, and this is the distal row. So we will go to the first row where you have 4 bones. They are the radial, the intermedium, the ulnar and the pisiform. In the second row, there is a single bone called as the central. In the third row, you have 4 bones which are called as trapezium, trapezoid, magnum and unciform. So these 9 carpels make up the wrist of rabbit. Now we move on to the palm region. This palm is supported by 5 bones which are called as the metacarpals. So there will be 1 metacarpal each for each finger. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 metacarpals. Now we move on to the digits or the fingers. The digits are supported by bones which are called as phalanges. There are 5 digits, but the number of phalanges is not even. The thumb consists of only 2 phalanges. So here you can see only 2 phalanges are there in the thumb, whereas all the other digits possess 3 phalanges each. 1, 2, 3, here 1, 2, 3, here 1, 2, 3 and here 1, 2, 3. So we can write the phalangeal formula as 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. It is the phalangeal formula in rabbit in the forelimb. And all the terminal phalanges, you can see all these terminal phalanges which are there at the end will be having claws. So all terminal or ungual phalanges are clawed. So these are the various bones of the forelimb. Now we move on to the pelvic girdle of rabbit. The pelvic girdle or the hip girdle, it supports the hind limb bones. It is from the pelvic girdle that the hind limb bones are suspended. Each half of the pelvic girdle is a single bone. So this is a single bone. This is one half of the pelvic girdle which is a single bone. It is called as the os nominatum. This is the second os nominatum. So there are 2 os nominata. That is why the total number is 2. Each os nominatum is formed by the fusion of 3 bones. They are ilium, ischium and pubis. So the 3 bones which make up each os nominatum are ilium, ischium and pubis. At the junction between the ilium, ischium and the pubis, you can see a cavity which is called as the acetabulum. So this can be considered as the articulation cavity of the pelvic girdle into which the hind limb bone will come and attach. So it is through this cavity that the hind limb bones are suspended from the pelvic girdle. So this is called as the acetabulum, which is the articulation cavity of the pelvic girdle, just like glenoid cavity in the case of pectoral girdle. In between the pubis and the ischium, there is a foramen which is called as the obturator foramen. So this is the obturator foramen, which is characteristic of only reptiles, birds and mammals. So it is through this cavity that the blood vessels and nerves to the muscles of the hind limb pass through. At the ventral margin of the acetabulum, so here at the ventral margin of the acetabulum, you can see a small bone which is called as the cotyloid bone or the acetabular bone. As already mentioned, the sacrum, which is a part of the vertebral column of rabbit, comes and fits into the ilium as it was already shown. Here you can see the sacrum fits into the ilium. For this, the ilium has got articular facets for the sacrum and they are crescentic and they are seen on the inner side. This ischium bears a tuberosity here. This tuberosity is called as the ischial tuberosity, which is located on the posterolateral side, and it is somewhat like a hook and it has got forward and backward projection. So this is called as the ischial tuberosity. You can see a region where the ischium and the pubis meet, and this is called as the ischiopubic symphysis. So this region is called as the ischiopubic symphysis, where the pubis and the ischia meet. So this finishes the structure of the pelvic girdle. Now we move on to the hind limb bones. So you can see the bones of the hind limb. The thigh region is supported by a single bone which is called as the femur. That is why the number is 1. The shank region is supported by 2 bones, that is the tibia and the fibula. The knee region is supported by a single bone. Ankle region is supported by bones which are called tarsals. The sole is supported by the metatarsals and the digits are supported by phalanges. We move on to each bone. So, the bone which supports the thigh is called as the femur. This femur also is having a shaft and has got 2 expanded extremities. The proximal end, it bears a region which is called as the head. which is rounded, and this head fits into the acetabulum of the pelvic girdle. And apart from this, femur is having three proximities which are called trochanters. There is a greater trochanter, there is a lesser trochanter, and there is a third trochanter. So this is the greater trochanter which is seen at the extreme proximal end, and there is a lesser trochanter below the head, and there is a third trochanter which is opposite the lesser trochanter. So this is the third trochanter. Now coming to the distal end of the femur. At the distal end of the femur there are two condyles, and these condyles, they are joining with the tibiofibula, and sliding between the two condyles at the knee joint there is a small bone which is called as the patella or the kneecap, and it is a flat sesamoid bone. Sesamoid bone is one which is formed by the ossification of tendon. Tendon is a connective tissue that connects a muscle to a bone. So when a bone in the course of development is developed by ossification of a tendon, then that is called as a sesamoid bone. So patella is an example of a sesamoid bone. Coming to the shank region. The shank region is supported by two bones which are the tibia and the fibula. This tibia, it is long and stout. Fibula, on the other hand, is short and slender. The tibia and fibula are fused posteriorly. Here you can see they are fused together. The tibia and the fibula are fused posteriorly. The tibia, it will articulate with the condyles of the femur. As I told you, the femur is having condyles. It is articulating with the condyles of the femur to form the knee joint. And this tibia in the proximal region bears a crest-like process which is called as the knee-medial crest. The tarsals support the ankle. There are 6 tarsals arranged in 3 rows. The proximal row consists of 2, middle row consists of 1, and distal row consists of 3. The proximal row consists of the astragalus or tibial and calcaneum, which is also called as the fibulaire. So this is the astragalus and the calcaneum. The calcaneum is directed backwards with a process which is called as the calcaneal process or the heel bone, which makes up the heel. Now coming to the second row of tarsals, which consists of a single bone, which is called as the navicular or the centrale. The distal row consists of 3 bones which are called as the mesocuneiform, ectocuneiform and cuboid. Now coming to the sole region, which is supported by the metatarsals. There are 5 metatarsals and the first one remains fused with the second. Though they are distinctly 5, the first is fused with the second. Now coming to the digits. Just like the 4 limbs, the digits are also supported by phalanges. The digits of the hind limb are also supported by phalanges. And here the first toe or the hallux is absent. So there is no phalanx corresponding to the first toe or the hallux. But all the other digits are having 3 phalanges each. So we can say the phalangeal formula as 0, 3, 3, 3, 3 because the first toe or the big toe or the hallux is not having any phalanx. So it is 3, 0, 3, 3, 3, 3. That is how the total number of phalanges is 12, and the last one, the last phalanges or the terminal phalanges or the ungual phalanges will be having claws. So this 1 corresponds to humerus, 2 correspond to tibia and fibula, 6 correspond to the tarsals which are arranged in 3 rows, 5 correspond to the metatarsals which are supporting the sole region in which the first one is fused with the second, but still they are considered as 2. Then 12 phalanges, and this corresponds to the knee bone or the patella.